I don't think there'll be a reconciliation 3. I think ultimately we're going to run out of time. So I think this is really going to be our last opportunity as we go into the summer to get major funding done. That again, that goes through some sort of appropriations process. And this idea that there'll be a reconciliation 3, I'm skeptical.
Met with Speaker Johnson earlier this week, and he also said he's pushing to be able to get that reconciliation package done by July. That may be possible in the House to be able to get that done, but it takes a month for us to be able to do it in the Senate. To get that done in the Senate is not possible by the end of July. It is not impossible to do a reconciliation 3.0 in November and December. That is more likely, I believe, to be able to get it finished up there, because there are things that still need to be done.
And that is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles and Oklahoma Senator James Lankford with me this week, both skeptical that the GOP will be able to pull off a third reconciliation package before the midterms, as House Speaker Mike Johnson is pushing to pass one before the House's August recess, which would be on a deadline of July 23rd. The measure would include affordability provisions, social program fraud crackdowns, defense money, as far as the Iran-related funding, as Republicans are forced to focus on immigration enforcement funding for their current second package, which is expected to be on the president's desk by June 1st. Joining me now is California Congressman Khanna. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And as you know, your colleagues on the Republican side are being forced to rely on reconciliation to do appropriations. I mean, they've got to fund an important priority as immigration enforcement, but because you and your colleagues won't work with them at all, they've got to use reconciliation to do that. Isn't that irresponsible?
Well, they already have $75 billion for ICE over 4 years. We want certain reforms so that Americans aren't harassed by ICE officers, so that people's basic rights are upheld. I think most Americans want a secure border, but they don't want ICE raids in their cities. And that is really the debate, and they should work to compromise so that we can move forward.
But, I mean, how much pressure can you put on this president at this point? I mean, you are just voting on everything against the president. The Democrats can't stand President Trump. Do you see a time to start working together?
Absolutely. But, you know, one of the things the president should do is end this war. I mean, 3 Republicans voted with us to end the war. Here's why the war is really hurting us. You talked about the Fed not cutting rates. Part of the reason they can't cut rates is because of the war and prices. And what does that mean? Higher mortgages, higher credit card interest rates, higher student loans. And then you see the cost of food and the cost of gas and the cost of farmers of urea, ammonia, and nitrogen and their fertilizers. Let's end this war to bring down prices.
Yeah, the president is trying to end the war. He's been trying to end the war for a couple of weeks now. He keeps thinking that it's close to being over. He told me that a couple of times. And yet the Iranians keep coming back with a refusal to end their nuclear weaponry program. Are you saying that you're okay with Iran having a nuclear weapon?
I am not. And, of course, we need to negotiate to get their enriched uranium out. We've had these conversations before about the JCPOA
yes.
and how President Obama got 97% out. I don't want to relitigate it, but the point is that there are a lot of people who want to see a negotiated settlement. I hope you talk to Xi Jinping about his involvement in getting a negotiated settlement, get the enriched uranium out, keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and make sure that the war ends, because it's literally hurting American farmers, American consumers, price of food, price of gas, and it's preventing the Fed from doing what the president wants, which is cut rates. I mean, cutting rates would help the economy. They can't do that while this war is ongoing and inflation is high.
Right. No, and I think that's why the president is trying to end it, certainly, to get the price of those commodities lower, oil, gas, and fertilizer as well. But, of course, we did litigate this, and we already went through this before, that President Obama actually sent Iran money, as opposed to actually President Trump trying to stop them from having a nuclear weapon. But I want to get your take on what China said, because the president is making news right now. He just spoke on Air Force One to reporters, and he said that China agreed to buy 200 Boeing planes with the potential commitment of buying 750 jets. He also said that China agreed to buy soybeans, and he said that he would consider lifting sanctions on Chinese companies purchasing oil but no decision has been made yet. Now, the president said that he did get a commitment from Xi Jinping that China would buy oil from America. We don't know if they're going to keep that promise, but he said they're going to send Chinese ships to Louisiana and Texas to buy American oil. And then on Taiwan, there were other things said, but let me get your take on those deals right now. What is your assessment of this trip?
Sure. I just have to say, for the record, my view is that President Obama didn't give money to Iran. He unfroze Iranian assets, but we can have that conversation some other time. Let me say on Boeing, I'm glad that China is buying their Boeing planes, but they're only buying...
But Congressman, wait, why unfreeze assets? Why give Iran, the leading state sponsor of terrorists, $2 billion so that they could go give that money to the proxies that they support, like Hezbollah and Hamas? Why unfreeze money?
It was Iranian money that was unfrozen for 97% of enriched uranium to get out of the country.
Right.
President Trump tore that deal up. Now there's tons of enriched uranium.
They never made a commitment
to
stop building a weapon. So why send them $1.7 billion when you didn't even have a commitment to stop building a weapon? You yourself said you don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, just so we're factual, he didn't send them money. It was their money that was unfrozen. I acknowledge it was unfrozen.
It doesn't matter. Why unfreeze
what we got out of it is...
You say it was their money. Other people say it wasn't their money. It was stolen money. But that's fine. Let's say it is their money. Why unfreeze the money? You never got a commitment that they would stop building a nuclear weapon. Why are you sending them $1.7 billion so that they could go give it to Hamas?
He got a commitment for 15 years, 97% enriched uranium out. Instead, what did we get? We had them having 60% enriched uranium when Trump tore up the deal. We had 13 American service members dead. We have Americans paying $4 at gas. We have food prices. Let me just finish, Maria. Let me finish, please.
Are you talking about the botched exit from Afghanistan? When
but
we
that has
lost
nothing to do with Iran.
That was Joe Biden.
The botched exit,
that was Joe Biden.
But look at the facts here. Because Trump tore up the deal, Americans are dead. Americans are paying more for food. Americans are paying more for gas. The Strait of Hormuz is less secure. No. And the war is unpopular. 70% of Americans don't want this war. Even Republicans are defecting.
But nobody wants war, but we also don't want a nuclear terrorist.
Well, let's talk about China.
We don't want a nuclear terrorist to have a nuclear weapon, okay? We don't want a terrorist.
And Obama was on the road to achieving that.
No way. He didn't achieve anything. Obama did squat.
We can talk about...
Obama did squat.
That's not true. Come on.
He unfroze all that money. Look, let's get to Taiwan. He unfroze the money. He gave the money to Iran. What did they do with the money? They gave it to Hamas, Hezbollah, and then they committed atrocities on Israel.
Trump should have built... He should have built on the JCPOA instead of ripping it up and getting us into war. He promised us no wars, and he didn't want to go into this war.
So in other words, you trust Iran. In other words, you trust Iran.
No, I don't.
You think Iran's going to keep their promises then?
I like the Trump who was running in 16 and 20 and 24 saying, I don't want more wars. I don't want Americans dying in these wars. I don't want Americans paying for Iran, and who cared more about Toledo than Tehran. I mean, how about building our manufacturing, investing in our people instead of getting in these foreign wars?
Oh, he is.
It's hurt the American people.
Investing in our people. He did no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. Would you move to try to overturn that should you get the majority in? Are you going to try to stop the agenda, the Trump agenda, should the Democrats get the majority in November?
I don't think we'd blanket start to overturn everything that he did. If he did something that was reasonable, like pharmaceuticals. Well, I want to overturn the tax breaks to the billionaires and rather have money going to the working and middle class in this country.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I don't think billionaires should have tax breaks. Yeah. But let's talk about China. Fine. I'm glad that China's buying. I want to talk China in a second. I definitely want to talk China in a second. But let me just ask you this, because we just did this story. We just did this story in New York, how Kathy Hochul is moving the threshold down. You're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York, not if your house is worth $5 million. No. Your house is valued at $1 million. Then you're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York. Do you agree with that? Yes, because you know what I believe, Maria,
Yes,
that the economy in this country is unfair and lopsided. Too few people, including in my district, which is 20 trillion.
Pay 45% of the tax in New York. The top 1% pay the majority of taxes in this country. You know it, and I do.
Maria, let me say this, and you may agree with me. Look, you can't have a country where a few people in a few places control the majority of the nation's wealth. That's not a democracy, and it's not sustainable. In world history, you've seen revolution when that happens. In Silicon Valley, you have 19 billionaires who have 12% of the economy. So what I'm saying is, if America has been good to you, if America has been good to you, you can do good for America. You can pay a little bit of tax so people have health care, child care, a living wage.
And they do. I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money. Hey, I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money on health care.
Do you not believe that we have a wealth in
hospitals. They send money to education. They spend money on the arts. They send all their money, and they send all their money to all of these nonprofits. I know plenty of billionaires that do just that.
But they have an obligation to pay some tax so that we can have public goods and health care, child care, and education.
They pay the majority of it.
But they're not.
The rich pay the majority of the tax in this country.
Warren Buffett has said.
No, you're mixing up words. That's not true. He was talking about capital gains tax.
Let me just finish.
I know exactly what Warren Buffett said.
Why is capital
gains? Was talking about capital gains taxes. He was not talking about income taxes. I know
but
exactly
he's saying
what Warren
he pays
Buffett
less
said.
tax.
No, because
he
he's
pays
not
less
paying
tax
a
than his
salary.
teachers.
He's not getting a salary. He's not getting income.
And that's most of the billionaires.
All stock.
And that's most of the billionaires in this country. It's not fair.
You're mixing up taxes.
Right.
I know all about taxes. Don't try it. You're mixing up taxes. You got capital gains tax and you got income state tax.
Yeah, so would you agree that we shouldn't have, in this kind of wealth inequality in an AI world, which is capital biased, that we shouldn't have millionaires plus having less rates on capital gains than someone who's a teacher or a farmer or a machinist is paying on their W-2s?
I don't want to crush investment. I want people to encourage. I want people to feel encouraged to buy and invest into the markets and put it in their 401k. The way to create wealth overall long-term is to invest in the stock market. That's 100%, I believe that. The way to long-term wealth creation... Yeah, but 50% of people don't do that. They do it in their 401k plans. More people than you know are invested in equities, and they don't even know it.
50% aren't in market. 50% aren't in the market.
Before you go, we got to go real quick on China, because on Taiwan, President Trump said he made no commitment. And as soon as the president got to China, you know what happened. Xi Jinping tried to set the table, tried to run the table by saying any mishandling of the Taiwan situation will mean conflict between the U.S. and China, and it will mean a very dangerous situation. So I ask you, do you believe the U.S. should change its position on Taiwan and actually back Taiwan?
I think we should affirm the one China policy, but we should have made it very clear there to Xi Jinping that the United States will not stand for any provocation militarily on Taiwan, and that they cannot continue to be militarily coercive. Now, I'm glad that the president got 200 Boeing jets, but the reason Boeing's stock fell yesterday is because in 2017, President actually got 300 Boeing jets, and the expectation was 500. But the biggest thing I'm concerned about, Maria, on a bipartisan basis, is there is no way China should hold us monopoly with rare earths. We need to get a commitment that they will never do that again. They should not be holding this world monopoly.
100%.
I appreciate the back and forth. I always enjoy it.
Me too. I love talking with you, Congressman. You're a good man, and we appreciate. I gotta eat my Wheaties before I see you, though. That's for sure. Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you, Congressman Khanna. All right, we'll be right back.